Hello everyone, I'm Rich Lamont. Welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here, welcome. So today's pattern is the Greenwell from Price Tannet's How to Dress Salmon Flies. I've had this book up here before. It's really a great read. There's a lot of great patterns in here, but there's also a lot of different techniques in here that you can benefit from. Everything from doing your underbody, tying in your silk gut, it's all in here. So if you get a chance to pick up this book, I highly recommend it. It also gives you a little bit of variety versus looking at tires like George Kelson. If you look at George Kelson's pattern in the salmon fly, one of the differences in the wing is scarlet and green swan, whereas Price Tannet uses only blue. So little differences. It's neat to see the differences in the tires themselves, in their recipes, and kind of the directions they went with them. But for this one, I'm doing a fly trade with another fly tire, and this is the fly that we chose. So that's what I'm going to tie for you guys. I am going to make the married wing part of it, marrying the wing. That'll be a short video. So if you want to check that out, look for that separate video. I'll leave a link of that in the description below. Other than that, let's get into the video. Alright, so we're over here at the vise, and I'm using my 12-0 Vivas thread, and I'm actually using a full length of silk gut this time. This is a silk body fly, so I really want to have this as smooth as possible. So I've been sucking on this for a couple of minutes now, and I've got this good and softened up. What we'll do now is we'll hold this to the underside of the hook. Now you can see it's starting to untwist. For the most part, you don't want that to start untwisting unless you've got an 1/8 of an inch or so already attached to the hook up front here. Okay, so now I've got that attached. I've actually got the loop on there. A little bit of the, I'm actually going to slide that forward just a hair. Okay. Wrap it forward a bit. And now I'm going to start coming backwards. Touching turns, keeping the thread nice and tight. Now as you can see, these have straightened out. They're not twisted, they're not coiled up anymore. That's going to come in handy. So now what I'm going to do is cut a few of these in different lengths at an angle, and that's going to help with the taper of the body back here towards the butt. So now as we wrap our thread all the way back, you'll see that the silk gut is starting to take form of the hook shank itself. And you can use your nail to smoothen it out a little bit, and if you see it's starting to get together in one spot a little bit too much, just use your nail to spread those apart just, pardon me, just a little bit more. And then you continue on. And we're checking to make sure that the body stays flat and even. So right now the silk gut is a bit on the soft side since it's been soaked a little. So you can kind of get that round and shaping nicely so that when you lay down your silk body later, your silk floss, it'll have a nice smooth body. And now we're getting close to where the butt is. And as you can see, it's starting to taper out just a little bit towards the hook shank. And you want to make sure that it's as centered as possible on the underside of the shank. And I'm just going to do let's tie in the tip and tag, which is flat silver tinsel. Now the flat silver tinsel that I'm using is Lagarton's. And what we're going to do is cut the end at an angle like this. Having that angle when we tie it in is going to actually help us. But what I want to do first is I think I'm going to taper this just a little bit. So I'm going to use a little bit of thread. Now, a little bit too far on that. Okay, so this one, as you can see, bend of the hook is still over this hook point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be starting the butt right about here, just shy of the hook point, so that way the body starts at the hook point. And right here on this curve, that'll allow the tail to have a kind of a natural curve right off of the hook shank, like that. At least that's what I'm hoping for. Alright, so we've got the tip and the tag. Oh, excuse me. Alright, so we've got our tinsel. As you can see, I've got the tinsel cut to an angle. And what we're going to do with that, tie that in a little bit farther forward here. And when you tie it in, I'm not sure if you can see that from here. For a second. Nope. We're tying in partially on that angle. We're not going all the way onto the full width of the tinsel. And then we're going to go and wrap downward to secure it. And then back up. Alright, so now the reason that we only did part of that angled section is because the other part is used to make this first turn. And then we'll wrap touching turns. All the way down. And when we reach the bottom where we want the fly to start, we'll turn and work our way back up towards the butt. These turns I try to make overlapping just ever so slightly. Just about touching turns. And we'll go ahead one more turn. A little bit more than what we wanted initially, just to be able to tie it off. This here I would consider much too far forward. As I've said before, I more recently found the butt position to be a little bit different than what I originally believed. See down here, I've got a little bit of Okay, now this one I'm also cutting at an angle as I wrap it around. And as you can see right here, I'm just at the hook point. You want to be behind this just a hair. Okay. And that's about where we want to be. We want the butt to start, and you want the butt to end at the hook point, and the body to begin at the hook point. So in this instance here, this is where I'm going to leave the tag. I'm warming up my wax. I'm going to wax the thread a bit. I'm laying down just a little bit of a base or foundation for that tail to sit on. And make sure that these are nice and flush. And for the body taper, I'm just going to do a small layer. This fly really doesn't need much of an underbody, but being this is more of a presentation fly than a fishing fly, I'm going to add just a little to give it a little bit more little thickness to it. Not to mention this the woolly nylon underbody will help ensure that the floss lays down very smooth. And you see that piles up rather quickly. And this is just regular woolly nylon. It's the same thing as Unistretch. I don't have any Unistretch right now to show you a spool of. And the woolly nylon I've got doesn't really have much of a label. But you can go into Amazon and just look up woolly nylon, or you can even go to like Michael's or Joann Fabrics, one of those places, or Hobby Lobby, and ask them for it, and they'll have it. I'll throw a little bit of Sally Hansen's. You can use lacquer, head cement, whatever you like, really there. That's just to hold that from unraveling while you're tying the rest. And then we have a nice underbody for the rest of the fly. Alright, now for the tails, I've got a couple that I chose. I'm going to try to make this a two-topping tail. So this is the first one here. And I've gone through and just clipped away any of the little straggling fibers here that are along the side of the rachis of the feather. I'm just leaving these little nubs here. Those will help. That'll help your thread hold it to the hook a little better. I'm sure you guys know these things want to roll on you quite a bit. Length on this one right about here is good. I'll tie that one in. And here's the other. And let's try again. Okay, sorry about that. I had to move you guys back a little bit. As much as I want to make sure you guys get as much detail as possible, it's hard to keep hitting the camera. So, alright, so here's my golden pheasant tail, golden pheasant topping that I chose for the tail. And I'm going to lay that right on here and give it a little bit of a bend. That'll just prevent it from kicking upward more. It should just flow off the hook nicely. And then I've got one other that I'm going to try to get on here. I already tried this one a couple times, it doesn't seem to want to cooperate. There we go. These I'm going to clip off back here because I want to keep that body as even as I possibly can. Alright, so now we're going to add the jungle cock for the veiling on here. And these are usually smaller eyes that are found in the front here in these lower areas. These are going to be a little bit smaller back there. I picked out two. And you want to kink the stem just a little bit by the tie-in point. The other thing you also have to keep in mind is that the way your thread comes off of the back side of the tippets for the head, or for the tail, your thread is now at an angle instead of being on a round surface like the hook. The thread is coming down off of the stem, so it's kind of at a bit of an angle here. I'm having issues with these lining up right. And they don't want to sit right anymore. Alright, sorry I had to back up a little bit. Need to change position on the camera a little and I actually was having trouble with the two tails, so I dropped it down and I have just the one now. I'm trying to work with this one a little bit better. So now the jungle cock, these are just some smaller jungle cock nails, and what I've done is stripped away all of the gray and white fibers. I've also kinked the stem a little right here, right by where the tie-in point is going to be. But now remember that your thread is now coming off of the stem up here, so your thread is sitting at an angle, and that angle could pitch and roll your jungle cock a little bit. So if we just put a little bit of a kink in that stem, which will kind of compensate for that. At least that's my plan. Come on now. And then likewise with the near side, what we'll do is bend the stem a little bit to match that angle, and hopefully this will line up the way I want. Sorry. And that's a negative. Back side one looks like it wants to play ball, this front side one does not. You know, some people glue these together or use a little head cement to get them together. I don't like doing that. I'd like them to sit on there as naturally as possible. There we are. Put those away. Now at this point, some of you might want to save your work, so you can put a small drop of head cement or something right here. I don't recommend it. I do it on occasion, but it does run the risk of building up and creating a high spot. In a sense, it's also kind of cheating, I suppose. But if you're learning, you know, and this is kind of your first time, or you've only been at it for a little while, it might not be bad to help you with that just for the time being. And then as time goes on and as you learn more, You can press yourself and see how far you can get without using any adhesive or head cement or anything. So next is the butt, which is black ostrich turtle. So we'll just take a small section, a small little piece here. I'll probably take it from right up here. And then right at the base here, I'll strip away a little bit. Make sure your thread is waxed. And now when you're tying this in and you're looking at your ostrich turtle, one side is fuzzy, one side is not. But you can see on the one side where the stem is. You want to tie in on that stem with the fuzzier side facing up. So you'll tie in that little bit that you just plucked off. And then pull towards you and then up. And that should align it just enough so that way you can get it all to wrap nice and tight together. And you can do anywhere 3 to 4 turns. 5 if you're confident and you want a thicker one. However, I would actually move it back just a hair more. There we go. And again, same. Pull towards you and then up. And that tiny little bit that I just moved that can actually make quite a bit of difference in how a fly looks. Alright, so next is the ostrich herl, the butt. And I've gone back just a little bit more because I really want the butt to end at the hook point, which would be about up to here. You can see, well, go back a little more. There we go. Okay. So now we're just going to take a small little piece of the ostrich herl. I'll grab that from right in here. And then we're going to take a couple little, maybe a millimeter off of that. Right by the base where you cut it. We'll just strip a little off. Alright, now with the fuzzier side facing up and the stem of this facing down, I'm going to tie that in. It could be right on the side of the hook, that's fine. And then pull towards you, and then up. And that should align it. Good enough. It'll align it so that way you can make those first wraps. There you go, and then we have a nice clean start. And I'm only going to do those 3 wraps. That should be sufficient. Trim that away. Alright, next we're going to tie in our tinsels. So the tinsels for this are flat silver, and then excuse me, sorry, it's flat silver and silver twist, which for the flat I'm using the Lagarden again, but for the twist I'm using Uni-French in medium. Alright, so again with the flat silver, we're going to cut that at an angle. And then we're going to tie this in with the point facing the front of the fly. And we want to tie it in on the quartering away probably the 530 position. So it'll be on the opposite side of the fly, the lower opposite side of the fly of the hook shank. And again, you're only tying about 2/3 of the way up that angle that you've cut in that tinsel. And then the twist will tie in on the side closer to you, but again underneath the hook shank and directly up against the flat. This tinsel actually flattens out quite well, but once you've tied it in with 1 or 2 good wraps, try to unweave that the butt end of it. That way when you're tying it in, it'll kind of wrap around the body of the fly and not create an awkward lump underneath it, underneath the body. All right. You could burnish that out as well. I think once we wrap our floss on there, we'll never know it's there. Now we need to tie in the hackle, which for the hackle is light blue cock hackle. Well, the book refers to it as pale blue. And since this is the floss that I've chosen, the pale blue floss, I've got some pale blue strong cock hackle here. This one was just part of a lot of feathers that I had gotten off of eBay a little while back. It's from the American Sports Supply Incorporated. I don't know much about the company. But I do like the hackle color, so maybe keep an eye out for it on eBay, or maybe if the place still exists. So we want to find one that tapers nicely. We are going to be starting this all the way back at the butt, so we need one that's got enough length to make it all the way up to the front of the hook. And as you can see, the fiber length doesn't exceed the hook point. Even at its thickest down here, it's barely reaching the level of the hook point. So this, I think, is actually going to be a pretty good feather for us. So what we'll do is then go through and pull apart these fibers. And while there is some taper to it, there's not a whole lot of taper. So I'm going to set that one aside as a possibility, but I am going to look for another one that may have a better taper. And let's see. I like that part. And you can see this one here definitely has a much better taper to it. Has more of a taper, so definitely going to use this one. So we'll take the feather, grab the tip, as close to the tip as you can get it, And then we're going to tie this in with the concave of the side of the feather facing down, or facing the shank of the hook. And then that is going to be tucked right up against that silver twist. And then when we wrap it, it'll tuck in underneath that twist, or just behind it. Now we can wrap forward. And we're going to get up so we're pretty close to the tip of the hook. Just leave enough room for the throat. Alright, so now this is quite a bit of silk to go on here. So I'm going to do the bobbin instead of trying to wrap by hand. Yes, that's kind of cheating, but it'll work well. To do that, I'm just going to, just as if I was tying in a new type of thread, okay. Getting the bobbin set back up for when we rethread. I'm going to switch over to black. Alright, so now we've got the blue already set out on the bobbin. This way we can spin the bobbin to flatten it out, and we can kind of take our time and not worry about getting snagged on anything or knocking things over or hitting the camera. And I can just kind of rock this back and forth. And settle some of these fibers into place. And then when we come back, we can use this one to smooth things out. Lay a little extra thread down, or silk down if we need to. Fill in any gaps. Silk is getting loose on the bobbin, which means I'm getting close to running out. I should make it to the front, but there we go. And just take your time with it, especially with the floss. If you're working with silk floss, you want to take your time and make sure that it looks good and that it's flat and it's done right. There's no rush on these flies. Okay, so now we've come back up nice and close. That's going to make sure that there's always blue underneath. There we are. Okay, tweezers. Now once we've done that, you can go through and burnish. Happy with that. And strand, stray hair here, stray piece of floss. That's, there we go. It was tripping my OCD a little. So now the flat tinsel, I'm going to run that first. And then we'll do 5 turns. And then we'll take the twist and we'll follow that right along the back side, the rear edge of that flat. And I like to twist it just a little extra in my fingers as I'm wrapping it, just to make sure that it maintains that proper twist look. And I'm going to back off on that flat, go around the twist, tie them all together. Let's go through real quick, make sure that we're happy with where everything is. Starting points look good. Spacing looks good. Okay. Confident that I'm ready to move on. Alright, so next we'll take the hackle, and that, well, you can either fold that by hand first, or you can fold it as you wrap it. I prefer to fold it as I wrap it. And it's the same thing as palmering, really. So you're just making sure that this is tucked in right along the back side of that that twist tinsel. And then as you tuck that in there and wrap it, and you just stroke your feathers back very gently. And that'll keep them in a nice rearward facing manner as you wrap, which will give you that nice classic look that we're after. And now we're right here by the tinsel. So what I want to do is trim that tinsel right up out of the way. I'm confident I don't need any more of a the tinsel. And then right here, where we're going to tie off, I'm just going to strip away some of the barbs, and tie it off. Okay, now for the throat, we're using some pintail. The recipe calls for widgeon, but I don't have any widgeon. So I'm going to use pintail. So what I'm doing now is I'm taking the feather and I'm going to remove all these little fluffy feathers at the base, and then some of these shorter ones over here. And I'm going to go up and find the tip, as close to the tip as you can get. Pull the rest of these back so they're splayed out like that. Now, just like any waterfowl, it does get delicate out towards the tip, so you want to be somewhat gentle when you start pulling back on these. Now, some of these are shorter, so we don't actually have to go all the way to the tip. I'd like to start close to the tip. There we are. And just as others before, we'll take these and we'll fold them back as we wrap. Okay. All I'm basically doing is going through and making sure these are all curving in the direction that I'd like, without letting them get too wild. Teal and pintail and these types of waterfowl can start doing things like this. And a couple at the top, you can just pull those off. Try not to pull them off if you don't have to, but if they're kind of unruly and don't really want to cooperate, you can go ahead and just pull them off. And then the bottom, and kind of brush these out a little bit. Just wet my fingers a little bit. Okay, that's pretty good. Fibers really want to stick together well. Okay. Come on now. That's better. That's what I was looking for. I'm sure I'll have to mess with it again shortly. Alright, now we're going to move on to the underwing. Okay, that looks good. I like that. And that'll be the end of video 1. If you want to see the continuation of this fly, I'll be doing the upper half next. We'll work on the underwing, the main wing, the sides, cheek, topping, and horns. So if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, think about subscribing. That helps me out. You know, people getting more subscribers lets me know I'm doing a good job and that the content that I'm creating for you guys is something that you want. If you want to see some more of something, leave it in the comment section. If you have any recommendations on anything, leave that in the comment section as well. I'm really good about getting to them in a pretty timely manner. So, yeah, any ideas, just leave them right there. Other than that, hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Have yourselves a great evening, and I'll talk to you in the next video. Take care.